Hello and welcome here to Talk FCB and welcome back to the channel here for another video, and today we're going to be discussing, of course, the summer transfer window, but a slightly different perspective on it today. We're not going to be talking about players coming in this window. We're going to be discussing the Barcelona players who could be leaving this summer by means of a sale and those players who will not be returning to the club. There's 8 different players that I'm going to be looking through in this video, and we're going to be discussing whether or not they should leave this summer and what the likelihood is that they will leave for sure. So let's get straight on with it. First of all, guys, thank you very much for the new subscribers we've got to the channel. I really appreciate all your support, all your comments. So welcome to those who are new to the channel. We look forward to having you here and getting involved in the comments. Just if you didn't know, you can follow me on Twitter at FCB Newsroom. Just tweet me there and I'm happy to follow you or whatever. I don't follow too many people there, so I'm more than happy to do that and to interact with you. So thanks as always, guys, for the support. Let's get on with the video. At number 1, Jordi Masip. A lot of people think that probably he shouldn't have been signed. A lot of people think that he should have certainly been sold last summer. Luis Enrique seemed to quite favour him in some ways. He played him a lot more often than a lot of people should have believed that he had played. But this summer he could finally come to an end at the club, and by means of either Olympiacos or Marseille apparently interested in taking on the 33-year-old French centre-back. Now, the Marseille link is an interesting one because Anthony Zubizarreta is actually the sporting director at the club, who is actually the man who brought Jordi Masip to Barcelona from Valencia. So apparently Marseille are interested and Olympiacos this summer, but in all honesty I think we're going to be clutching at straws if we think we're going to get anything for the transfer fee. I think the most important thing will be offloading Mathieu, getting him off the wage bill and giving then another player to come through the system and play at centre-back in his place, because there is reports that if Mathieu is sold, which is extremely likely this summer, Valverde does not count on him, and if he is sold, Marlon will be the new 4th centre-back of Barcelona in the coming season. So that's certainly a positive. Mathieu, very much a big part of the treble winning season. He did have some good games in that season. Big goals against Real Madrid and Celta Vigo, but apart from that, his defensive liabilities and his lack of concentration at times have certainly cost us, particularly last season. It is quite clear now that his time at Barcelona is certainly up and he does need to be moved on as soon as possible. Cristian Tello is another one that has been linked with Olympiacos this summer. Him and Mathieu could end up at the same club. Tello, 25 years old now, seems to be on the Barcelona books for a long time. He's been out on a few loans in that period, most recently at Fiorentina. He had a decent spell there. He's been linked with Olympiacos, like I say. He's only got the 1 year left on his current deal, although his agent did come out recently and say that he doesn't actually rule out staying at Barcelona, but whether Tello would get any game time at all is yet to be desired, really. We don't know whether Valverde likes him at all. He would be an interesting option, but I'm not really sure he's of the quality these days. He was very exciting when he broke through under Pep. He looked quite promising towards the start, but he did tail off, and like I say, he's been on a series of loans since then. A lot of people do actually appear to have forgotten about him even being a Barcelona player. Number 3, Arda Turan, 30 years old now. He was linked very heavily to a move to China in January. Apparently we turned down 50 million euros from him from an unnamed Chinese club. Now he's being offered around the clubs for about 20 to 25 million. Arsenal have been heavily linked with him. Apparently Arsene Wenger is a big fan of Arda Turan, and he could also be involved in any possible deal that we have for Hector Bellerin this summer. So Turan does seem to be headed for the exit door. He looked quite disappointed at the end of the Copa del Rey finally. His time at the club possibly had come to an end. It's a bit of a shame in a way because Arda Turan has always given his all. He seems like a player that really does want to play for Barcelona, and I really did want to make it work for him, but in all honesty the board made quite a mistake signing him in the first place for what was a very high transfer fee, around 40 million euros and rising. It was a big transfer. It was quite late in his career to come to the club, and unfortunately for him, due to the ban that we had at the time, it hasn't quite worked out. But he's no doubt a good player and would certainly be a good addition to Arsenal if they should sign him, and 20 million looks like it would be the possible fee this summer. Now again, this is a very interesting one. Rafinha has been heavily linked with a move away from the club this summer. 24 years old now. Barcelona have come out and been firm straight away from the transfer market. They've said we're not letting him go for anything under 30 million euros. But it was interesting yesterday, his agent was pictured actually meeting with Valencia board of directors. So read into that what you will. Liverpool and Roma have also been heavily linked with the Brazilian midfielder this summer. Brother, of course, of Thiago Alcantara, who of course all these years later later highly regret selling. So we don't really want to move too quickly to offload Rafinha. He's been very much troubled in the recent season by injury problems, and it's very, very disappointing because when he has played, he has looked good. He's got a lot of quality about him. He's quite versatile as well. We've used him in a number of positions, but unfortunately this summer he has been linked with a move away from the club, so it'll be very interesting to see if anyone does match that €30 million valuation the club have set this summer. Next is Munir, 21 years old now. He's just come back from a loan to Valencia. They actually had the option to purchase him for about €12 million. They didn't take that on. It's now understood that Munir may well go back out on loan again, or Valverde could use to choose him to play in the coming season, or he could be sold permanently this summer. Ajax have come out recently as a possible destination for him, and also Everton of the Premier League have been continually linked with Munir since about 2 years ago now. So Ajax is an interesting option, very, very good at developing young players, very much suited to the environment there Munir would be, and he's still got a lot to learn. He's only 21 years old. The talent was clearly there, like Mathieu, when he first broke through, the expectations were very high. He actually made an appearance for Spain very, very early on in his career, and since then, though, he's not quite lived up to the hype. He's struggled to come to the pressure of what comes with breaking through at Barcelona, and since then he hasn't really kicked on. But this could be a big season for him coming up. Doesn't know really yet where he does lie, but if he goes out alone, he certainly needs to impress if he's going to have a future at the club. Vermaelen is next on our list, 31 years old now. Thomas Vermaelen, brought in from Arsenal when he was very much injury prone. They didn't want to deal with him anymore because of his injuries. I'm not really sure why we felt the need to go and sign him. He was troubled by injuries during his first season. He did make a few appearances here and there, and when he did play, he wasn't too bad. He wasn't a liability like Mathieu, but it's getting him on the pitch that's the problem. He's not available enough. He's always injured. He's got difficult problems, niggling problems. Obviously not his own fault. He's had a lot of bad luck, but unfortunately his time at Barcelona simply hasn't worked out, and the same happened when he went on loan at Roma this season. He had a lot of injuries, never really broke into Roma's first team, and failed to make an impact there. So there's nothing more going on with that, and he is going to be looked to sell elsewhere this summer. But like Mathieu, I'm not really sure we're going to be able to reclaim hardly any of the transfer fee that we paid for Vermaelen. €1 or €2 million we'd probably gladly accept, but we may end up letting Vermaelen go on a free transfer, simply once again to get him off the wage bill and then wipe the slate clean with as far as that transfer goes. Another one of those types of stories, Douglas, and you notice a sort of pattern emerging here. The current board at the moment are under a lot of criticism from fans, from socios, and it's absolutely justified because the sort of deals that they've done in recent windows have not only been economically bad for the club, but domestically and on the pitch, it's not been good enough. The signings, the players have come in, they've not been to the right quality. We paid too much money for them, they're on too high wages, and now the problem is not only they haven't given enough on the pitch, they're also quite difficult to shift off it. We're struggling to offload some of these players. They're on such high wages that they don't want to be signed by another club. Another club can't afford it without Barcelona subsidising the deal, and we're recapturing hardly any of their transfer fee because they're simply too old or not good enough to really pass on and for another club to take the risk on them. Douglas, 26 years old now, he actually had a decent loan spell at Sporting Gijón this season, who was sadly relegated, but it does look like he'll be moving on this summer. We're going to certainly bring in a right back, and of course we've got Sergi Palencia in the B team who could make an impact next season when he's promoted or given a few more chances in the first team by Valverde. So it seems like Douglas could well be on his way out this summer. Where he'll go is as yet unknown, and once again I wouldn't expect too much to come out of his transfer fee. It would again be a case of getting him out of the squad and moving on and forgetting that one ever happened. And finally, the final player, the eighth player who will definitely be moving on this summer and has already packed his bags and is ready to leave the club. Goalkeeper Jordi Masip, 28 years old. We hardly saw him at all last season. He was the designated third goalkeeper, and of course, the rotation was between Ter Stegen and Jasper Cillessen. Masip hardly had a look in. Luis Enrique did like the look of him, but he never really had a run of games in the team, and his contract expired this summer, so he's free to leave the club and has had offers from Girona, who are newly promoted in La Liga next season, and also Salzburg of Austria, the Red Bull-owned club. So interested to see where Masip makes his next move. But those are the 8 players this summer who have been linked with an exit away from Barcelona. Those most likely to leave, I would say that Mathieu will definitely leave this summer one way or another, even if we have to sell him for free. I could see Tello moving on. He's in the last year of his contract. He doesn't seem to be able to give an awful lot to us right now. Arda Turan is debatable. Whether the board will cut their losses on that transfer is as of yet undecided. I don't think Rafinha will be sold. I don't think anyone will match the 30 million asking price, and I also don't think that we will want to let him go this summer simply because he does have quality, and we just need to find that in the consistency in his performances, and hopefully he can stay injury-free next season. I think Munir could go out on loan again. I don't think we're going to sell him just yet. I think we're going to give him another chance to possibly have a decent loan spell away from the club, and you might see him come back in the sort of way that Deulofeu did, or maybe we'll sell him with a buyback clause. I think Vermaelen will certainly be on his way out this summer, and I think Douglas as well will definitely be sold this summer by the club. So that's the lowdown on the players that may or may not be going out of the club. Of course, there's other players in the squad who've been linked with exits, the likes of Andre Gomes, Paco Alcácer, who didn't really light up all areas in their first season at the club, but I do believe that those two players in particular will be given more time. They showed a lot of promise towards the end. Certainly Paco Alcácer scoring in the cup final. Andre Gomes put in a few decent performances towards the end of the season too. New signings do take time to settle into Barcelona, the style of play, the philosophy, the pressure. Second season is always the one that you look for. So hopefully those players can improve, and hopefully we can clear our wage bill a little bit to have a good transfer window, and also then help us to bring in players that can certainly make a difference on the pitch for us next season. Leave your thoughts down below, guys. Out of the players I've mentioned, who do you see leaving? Who do you want to stay, if any of those players on that list suit you? And also, if there's anyone else that you feel I haven't mentioned who's likely to leave this season, please let me know down below. I will see you very, very soon. Like I said at the start of the video, I really appreciate all the support and all the comments. So keep it coming, guys. I'll see you soon. Until then, Visca El Barça.